I stood there, holding a damn tray of deviled eggs, while my mom introduced Monica's ex-husband to the group like he was still part of the family. "And this is Ryan," she said, all smiles. "Monica's first love. We're so glad he could make it." I blinked. First love? She hadn't said that about any guy I ever brought around. Not once. "My name's Rachel. I'm 28. I live in Columbus, Ohio. And for a long time, I thought being the dependable one earned me something in this family. Growing up, it was always Monica the star and Jake the clown. Monica was 3 years older and some kind of genius. Jake's 2 years younger and never met a rule he didn't break. And me? I was the one who swept up the mess. Straight A's, no drama. Worked through college, skipped parties, always picked up the phone. I kept thinking, if I just keep showing up, eventually someone will notice. They did, but only when they needed something. After college, I became the safety net. Medical bills? I covered them. Monica's car broke down? I paid half. Jake got hit with a fine for skipping out on court. Guess who Venmo'd it? It got to where I didn't even wait to be asked. I just handled it. So when my stepdad retired after 40 years in security, I thought, finally. A chance to give back, celebrate him, maybe even hear a thank you from someone. I rented out this cozy lodge by Buckeye Lake. Paid for catering, open bar, custom cake with his badge number iced on top. Even got the man's favorite IPA trucked in from Cincinnati. I didn't tell anyone how much it cost. Just wanted it to be perfect. That night, the whole crew rolled in. Mom, Monica with her twins, Jake in a wrinkled shirt, and yes, Ryan. They came in laughing like a pack. No one asked who booked the place or set it up. I was already there, hours early, candles lit, playlist running. Dad looked around, eyes shining. "This is beautiful," he said. For a second, I felt it. Like maybe I finally did something that counted. Quick note. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. Then Mom leaned in, holding her wine like she was about to toast something profound. She clinked my glass, gave me that polite smile she uses on cashiers, and said, "You really didn't have to go this far, Rachel. We all know who the favorite is." I paused. "What?" She laughed lightly, too loud. "Monica, obviously. She's always been your dad's pride and joy." Just like that, my stomach dropped. That wasn't a joke. That was a reminder. A gut punch with a smile. And I knew nothing I did would ever be enough for her. I turned away, set the tray down, and headed to the back kitchen to get fresh air. I stayed in the back kitchen for a few minutes, pretending to check on the desserts while my hands shook like they always did when I had to swallow something bitter with a smile. The thing is, I wasn't surprised. I wanted to be, but I wasn't. Being the middle kid was code in our house for being the filler between Monica's big wins and Jake's big screw-ups. Monica was 3 years older. The debate team captain, science fair queen, early college admit. Mom used to joke that Monica came out with a resume in her hand. Jake was 2 years younger and the total opposite. Always cracking jokes, always getting caught doing something dumb, but somehow skating by with a shrug and a grin. "He's just got that charm," Mom would say when he talked his way out of trouble. And me? I made sure the house didn't fall apart in between their chaos. No one asked me to, but someone had to clean up after Monica's late-night study binges or Jake's broken curfews. I did the dishes before being told. I remembered Dad's meds when Mom forgot. I figured if I just stayed useful, maybe I'd matter too. That idea got baked in deep by the time I hit 15. Dad's small construction business went under my sophomore year. One week we had name-brand cereal. The next we were cutting bills and skipping dinner out. I heard my parents arguing through the walls about money, about debt, about losing the house. And one day, instead of doing homework after school, I walked down the street and got a job at the corner store. Cashier, 10 hours a week, eventually 15. I brought home my paychecks in an envelope and handed them to Mom. She said, "You don't have to do this." But she took the money anyway. That was the first time I felt seen. Not for being smart or funny, just for being useful. By senior year, I'd stopped asking for lunch money. When my friends were applying to big-name schools out of state, I chose the University of Cincinnati, not because I wanted to stay close, but because it offered the most aid and had a strong accounting program. I knew we couldn't afford anything else, and I knew accounting meant one thing: security. That became my thing. While Monica chased a grad degree in sociology and Jake flunked out of community college twice, I built a future. Numbers were safe, predictable. You either had it or you didn't. I picked up a work-study job on campus and worked weekends at a tax prep chain. Between classes, shifts, and studying, I barely slept. But I still found time to answer when Mom called, always with a quiet ask, just till the first of the month, or Jake's insurance didn't cover this, or we need a little help with groceries. I started sending money home, 300 here, 500 there. I'd convinced myself it was temporary, just a rough patch, just until Jake found a steady job, just until Monica finished grad school. But the justs kept piling up. By the time I graduated, I already had a full-time job lined up and 2 part-time side gigs. I was managing client accounts for a mid-sized firm downtown, freelancing bookkeeping for a local bakery, and doing rideshare on weekends. I told myself the hustle was for me, for savings, for a car, for one day maybe owning a condo. But I never really saw that money. It kept disappearing into other people's problems. One month, it was Monica's overdue electric bill. Another, Jake's broken-down car. Then it was Mom's dentist. Then Dad's credit card. Then Monica again. Always a reason. Always a need. Still, I kept going. Because I thought that's what family did. You don't walk away when it gets hard. You help. You show up. But it was more than that. Deep down, I think I believed that if I kept bailing them out, they'd see me as equal. As someone who mattered just as much as Monica and Jake. Someone who wasn't just the in-between girl. I didn't admit it out loud, but every wire transfer came with a silent hope. Maybe this time they'll say thank you. Maybe this time I'll finally belong. Instead, it just became expected. Quietly absorbed. No one asked if I had enough. No one offered to pay me back. And I never demanded it. I just kept moving forward, pretending this was all normal. But standing there in the lodge kitchen that night, hands still shaking from Mom's little joke about favorites, I realized something was cracking under the surface. I'd been keeping score without meaning to, and the numbers weren't adding up. Someone pushed the kitchen door open behind me. It was Monica. She looked around like she wasn't sure what she was interrupting. "Hey," she said. "You okay?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, just checking on the dessert." She nodded slowly, then walked back out. Of course she didn't notice anything was wrong. They never did. Not unless I spelled it out. And even then, they'd twist it. I took a deep breath, pushed the tray forward, and walked out into the dining room. Fake smile back in place. They weren't going to ruin this night. Not yet. I carried the dessert tray out like nothing was wrong, like I wasn't clenching my jaw hard enough to crack a molar. Everyone was laughing at something Jake said. Plates full, drinks flowing. On the surface, it looked like a happy family, but I knew better, because behind every smile they gave me was a hand they'd already held out. The emergencies never stopped. They just changed form. Right after I started my first job, Jake got pulled over for driving on a suspended license. He was pissed about the fine, said it was unfair, because he didn't even know it was suspended. I paid it anyway. Monica called next. Her roof was leaking, insurance was slow, the twins were sick. Just a short-term thing, she said. I sent $800. Then Mom needed $2,000 for dental work. I hate to ask, she said, but asked anyway. And then there was Dad's hernia surgery. No coverage. I took out a personal loan, interest rate through the roof, and covered that too. I was making decent money, but I had nothing to show for it. No savings, no travel, no upgrades. I moved out of my decent one-bedroom and into a basement apartment with no windows just to keep up with everything. The place smelled like mildew when it rained, and the heater barely worked in the winter. I didn't tell anyone that part. I kept saying yes, kept telling myself that once Monica got her feet back under her, once Jake figured things out, once Dad recovered, it would get easier. It never did. I missed my cousin's wedding in Florida because I couldn't afford the flight. I skipped a girls' weekend in Nashville because Monica's divorce lawyer wanted another retainer. She cried on the phone and said, "I don't have anyone else," so I paid it. $2,000. Gone. No questions asked. Eric, my boyfriend at the time, had finally had enough. He'd been patient, mostly, but after I canceled our vacation for the 3rd time, he lost it. "You're married to your family, Rachel," he said, standing in my kitchen with his coat half on. "I don't mind being second sometimes, but I'm not going to be last forever. I just stared at him. So I should have let my mom get evicted. He shook his head. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's always you fixing everything, and no one's fixing anything for you. I told him he didn't understand, and he walked out. At the time, I thought he was the problem. Thought he just couldn't handle a strong woman with responsibilities. Now, I see it differently. He was tired of watching me bleed out slowly while everyone else stayed warm, but I kept going, kept giving. Then, 6 months ago, Mom called sounding panicked. I've been trying to think of how to celebrate your dad's retirement, she said. 40 years, Rachel. He deserves something special. I thought she meant she was planning something and just wanted my input. But no, it was the familiar setup. Stress in her voice. Vague mentions of what she would do if she could. That slow drip guilt trip I knew by heart. I told her not to worry, I'd take care of it. I'd been saving a little, thought maybe I could finally do something nice. Something that wasn't just damage control. She didn't even ask how much it would cost. Just said, if you think that's necessary, no thank you. No, are you sure? Just that line, flat. Like I was offering to over-decorate a birthday cake, instead of plan a whole damn weekend. Still, I went all out. Found the lakeside lodge, rented it for 2 nights. Had dinner catered, prime rib, vegetarian options, signature cocktails, custom cake with his badge and retirement date. Welcome baskets in every room. Fireplace lit. Dad's favorite IPA stocked. It was the kind of celebration I thought they'd finally recognize as love. Not just money, but thought, time, intention. I didn't even tell anyone the total, just under $7,000, not counting the time I took off work. And the whole time, I kept hearing her voice in the back of my head. If you think that's necessary, like generosity was an overreaction. Like care was a flaw. But I still thought maybe this would be the thing that finally made me feel like I wasn't just the one who filled in the cracks. That night, looking around the table, watching them joke and eat like it was all just expected, I realized I'd built something beautiful, and they didn't even see it. They never had. And I was starting to wonder if they ever would. I kept myself busy after dessert, refilling drinks, checking in with the caterers, straightening up the lounge area. Anything to stay in motion. If I stood still too long, I'd start thinking about that voice in my head. If you think that's necessary. The truth? I had thought it was necessary. I'd planned this night down to the last damn coaster. I got there that morning while the sun was still low over the lake. The lodge smelled like cedar and clean linens. I lit all the candles I'd brought, arranged photos of Dad in little gold frames. Him in uniform, him fishing, him holding Monica when she was a baby. Everything looked perfect, cozy, warm, intentional. His favorite IPA chilled in the fridge, jazz playing low on the Bluetooth speakers. I even laid out welcome baskets on each bed. Local snacks, handwritten notes, mini bottles of wine, each one personalized. Because I knew what everyone liked, even if they never asked what I liked. And then the pack arrived, all at once, like they'd carpooled, laughed the whole way there. Mom came in first, holding a bottle of Cab and a shopping bag. Monica followed with the twins, Ryan right behind her, somehow looking smug and clueless at the same time. Jake came in last, dragging a duffel bag and talking on speakerphone like he was allergic to silence. Wow, Mom said, scanning the room. You really went all out, huh? I smiled. Glad you made it. Then she spotted the baskets and gave a small, sarcastic laugh. Must be nice to blow money like this. I ignored it. Dinner's at 7. Drinks are in the kitchen. Monica picked up one of the wine bottles I'd set out and raised an eyebrow. Cabernet? No Pinot? It's what Dad likes, I said. She shrugged, then turned to Ryan. Guess we'll survive. Jake wandered in, popped open a cooler, and pulled out a drink. No Bud Light? Dad's favorite IPA, I reminded him. He took a sip, made a face. Of course. And let me guess, vegan options at dinner too? I nodded. Yeah, for me. Jake laughed like I'd told a joke. Rachel and her grass-fed air again. No one told him to shut up. No one told Monica to stop critiquing the wine. No one told Mom to appreciate the effort. It was like they all decided this was just how things worked. Rachel plays host, we nitpick. Still, I stayed hopeful. Dad looked proud when he walked in. He took it all in, the framed photos, the music, the welcome basket on his bed, and gave me a long, steady look. "You did all this?" he asked. I nodded. He clapped my shoulder real tight. "You outdid yourself, kid." And for that brief second, I felt it. Like maybe I finally got through. We sat down to dinner, and it actually started off okay. The food was good, the table looked amazing, and Dad was glowing. Monica's kids were behaving for once. Jake kept his sarcasm to a low simmer, and Mom even toasted him, said, 40 years is a long time, and you earned every second of this. But as the meal went on, the undercurrent started creeping back in. Jake leaned back, chewing a roll, and said, "Only single people spend money like this. No one with a mortgage would throw a whole weekend bash." Monica jumped in. "It's easy to splurge when you don't have braces and school fees draining your bank account." Ryan chuckled. "Some people just have different priorities, I guess." I put down my fork. "You guys know I didn't do this for show, right?" Jake smirked. "Hey, no one's complaining. Just saying, this is definitely extra." Mom took a sip of her wine and said without looking up, "She's always been a little out of touch." It was casual, light, like she was commenting on the weather, but it landed like a slap. "Out of touch?" I said. She glanced up. "Rachel, relax. You've been working nonstop for years. You don't even realize how normal people live anymore." I forced a laugh. "You mean like people who send their problems to me so I can fix them?" Monica cut in. "Come on, don't be dramatic. No one forced you to do any of this." "That's right," Jake said. "You're just intense about things, trying too hard." The table went quiet for a second. Even the kids looked up. I stared at my plate, pulse pounding. I wasn't about to cry. Not here. Not in front of all of them. Dad cleared his throat. "Let's just enjoy dinner, yeah?" I nodded and smiled, but inside, something started to harden. This was never going to change. No matter how perfect the food was, no matter how many candles I lit or baskets I arranged. To them, I'd always be the sister who tried too hard. I stood up, grabbed an empty tray, and started clearing plates before anyone else could speak. I stacked plates in the kitchen, trying to cool off. When I came back, the kids were on the floor playing with Legos, and Monica was passing out little gift bags. "Dad," she said, handing him one wrapped in red tissue paper. "From all of us." He pulled out a stainless steel travel mug with "Legendary Retiree" etched on the side and smiled big like it was a trophy. Jake gave him a framed photo of the three of them fishing back in the day. Dad laughed and said, "Look how young I was." Then Jake added, "Figured you'd want to remember when you still had knees." The room chuckled. Ryan stepped forward and gave Dad a pair of thermal fishing gloves. "For all the mornings you dragged me out at 5 a.m. and told me to toughen up." Even I smiled at that one. For a minute, it felt warm again. Then Dad looked over at me. "Rachel, you got something too?" I nodded and stood up. "Yeah, one sec." I walked back to my room and came out with a small velvet box. No gift bag, no filler, just the thing itself. When I handed it to him, his hands actually trembled a little. He opened it, stared, blinked hard. Inside was a vintage Rolex Oyster Perpetual. Same model, same band, same exact year as the one he sold when I was 16. Sold it to cover part of Mom's ER visit when her appendix burst. I remembered that day like it was burned into me. Him quiet for weeks, no watch on his wrist, like something had been amputated. He touched the face gently and whispered, "How did you even find this?" "Took a while," I said. "Tracked it down online, got it cleaned up." He looked up at me, eyes wet. "You didn't have to do this." "I know," I said. He stood and hugged me, tight. Not a side hug, not a polite pat. A full body, hold your daughter like she matters hug. "Thank you," he said into my ear. I could have stopped time right there and been fine. But I didn't miss what was happening across the room. Mom's smile had vanished. Her mouth was tight, eyes locked on the watch like it personally offended her. Monica was shifting in her seat, arms crossed. Jake leaned back in his chair, already halfway into a smirk. And then he said it. "Guess we know who Dad's favorite is now." The tension snapped like a rubber band. Monica muttered, just loud enough for me to hear, "Trying to buy forgiveness doesn't mean you get it." I turned toward her. "What was that?" She raised her eyebrows, all fake innocent. "Nothing." Mom set down her wine glass and said, "Well, when you don't have a husband or kids, I guess this is where your money goes." Just like that, the air got thick. No one laughed. No one even moved. My face burned. "Are you serious right now?" she shrugged, swirling her wine. "It's a lovely gesture, Rachel, but it's a lot." Dad looked stunned. "Linda," he started, but she waved him off. "I'm just saying it's extravagant. Over the top. It makes people uncomfortable." Uncomfortable. That's what they called it when I gave too much. Not generous, not thoughtful. Just uncomfortable. I looked around the room. Monica was avoiding my eyes. Jake had that stupid grin. Ryan had conveniently decided to check his phone. And just like that, I wasn't the daughter honoring her dad. I was the outsider showing off. I sat down slowly, pulse hammering in my ears. Dad held the watch like it was fragile. "It means a lot to me, Rach," he said quietly. I nodded. "Glad you like it." But the warmth was gone. They'd sucked it right out of the room. I pushed back my chair and stood. "I'm gonna get some air." Nobody stopped me. Of course they didn't. They never do. I stepped outside and stood on the back deck, staring at the water. It was quiet, cold, and still, the opposite of everything in my chest. I counted my breaths, tried to shake it off. I wasn't going to let her ruin this night. 10 minutes later, I walked back in. The room had moved on without me. Jake was flipping through TV channels. Monica and Ryan were helping the twins with dessert, and Mom was refilling her wine glass, like she hadn't just gut-punched me with that snide little comment. I smiled, sat down, tried to carry on like it hadn't happened. But she wasn't done. She sat beside me, sipped her wine, and leaned in like she was about to whisper something sweet. Instead, she said, "You've always used money to feel important." I stared at her. "What?" She didn't flinch. Just repeated it, louder this time. "You throw money at people so they'll see you." Monica looked up from the kitchen. Jake muted the TV. "Mom," I said, trying to stay calm. "What are you talking about?" She tilted her head like I was being difficult. "You act like you're the generous one, the martyr. But it's never just help with you, it's control." That word hit hard. Control? You make a show of it. The bills, the loans, this weekend. All so you can sit back and feel superior. I laughed, but it sounded more like a choke. I've covered rent, surgeries, car repairs. Half this family wouldn't be standing if I hadn't stepped in. Jake stood up slowly, hands in his hoodie pockets, like he wasn't sure if he should intervene. Monica didn't say a word, just crossed her arms and stared at the floor. "You act like helping us makes you better than us," Mom said, her voice tight. I turned to her. "I was helping you, all of you. I've said yes every single time, even when it left me broke, even when it cost me relationships. I gave up vacations, I downsized apartments. I've been doing everything I can to keep this family together." She didn't blink, didn't soften, just said it, like it had been sitting on her tongue for years. "You were never really part of this family." The room went dead silent. Even the twins stopped moving. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Dad stood from his chair, eyes wide. "Linda, what the hell does that mean?" She turned to him. "It means she's always stood apart, always judging, always holding herself above the rest of us like we're some charity project." "No," I said, voice shaking. "No, I have never done that." But it didn't matter, because she believed it. And suddenly, everything clicked. All the times she'd called last, all the side comments, all the ways she'd treated my support like a transaction instead of love. "You think I did this to feel better than you?" I said. "I did this because I loved you, because I thought that's what family does, because I thought maybe if I gave enough, you'd finally see me." Jake stepped back like he wanted no part of this. Monica looked like she might say something, then didn't. Even Dad, who had tears in his eyes not 20 minutes ago, just stood there frozen. "You don't get it," I said. "None of you do." Mom's voice dropped low. "You made us feel small." "You made yourselves feel small," I snapped. "All I ever did was help. No one asked you to." That was it. The final knife. I looked at each of them. My mother, dismissive, glassy-eyed, probably halfway through her third drink. Jake, avoiding eye contact like a coward. Monica, quiet, calculated. Lips pressed together like she had thoughts but wouldn't risk sharing them. Ryan, the outsider, suddenly very interested in cleaning up dessert plates. And Dad, my father, standing there like he didn't know whose side he was on. I felt stripped down, exposed. Like I'd just pulled my heart out and handed it over and watched them step over it. I stood up. Nobody said a word. Nobody stopped me. Not even him. I grabbed my phone from the side table, shoved it into my purse, and walked out of the room. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I just walked. Because the second she said I was never part of this family, she told the truth they'd all been too polite to admit. I wasn't one of them. Not really. And the sickest part? I'd been paying for the privilege to pretend I was. I was halfway to the front door when the rage hit. Not loud, not messy, just sharp and clean like a snapped bone. I stopped, turned around, walked back in. They were still at the table, quiet. Even Jake looked like he didn't know what to do. I grabbed my wine glass, raised it, and said, calm as hell. Perfect. Then don't ask me for any more money. Monica blinked. Mom's jaw clenched. Dad finally opened his mouth to speak, but I cut in. I've paid for this dinner, all of it. That's about $400. I turned to the server, who was frozen mid-step by the drink cart. Can you split the rest of the weekend's charges between the rest of the group? The girl nodded slowly, eyes wide. Thank you, I said. Mom stood up, hands out like she could undo it all with a gesture. Rachel, wait. No more smoothing this over, I said, cutting her off. Dad reached for my arm. Honey, come on. Let's just talk. I stepped back. No, Dad. I have talked. I've talked with my money, with my time, with every single thing I've sacrificed to keep this family from sinking. He didn't move, just looked pained. I turned to Monica, who hadn't said a damn word through any of this. $6,000 for your divorce lawyer. $3,000 for the twins' school tuition that 1 year you just needed a little boost. Another $4,000 when your car died. She flushed but didn't deny it. Jake, I said, not even looking at him yet. Traffic tickets, rent, gas money, twice for bail. Total, somewhere around $8,000. Oh, and I paid off your credit card when it hit collections. You didn't know that, did you? Jake opened his mouth, but I didn't let him get a word out. Dad's surgery? I took out a personal loan for that. $10,000, interest still climbing. Now they were all staring at me like I was speaking a foreign language. And Mom, I said finally, turning to her. Your teeth, your electric bill, your car insurance. I floated this entire family for years, quietly, willingly, because I thought that's what love looked like. She shook her head, eyes glassy. That's not fair. No, I said. What's not fair is pretending I'm the problem because I finally have boundaries. Monica leaned forward. We didn't ask you to tally it all up. Right, I said. You just kept asking, and I kept saying yes. That's on me. I looked at each of them one last time. I thought I was helping. Turns out I was just making you resent me. Nobody said anything. The only sound was the clink of a fork hitting a plate when one of the twins dropped it. I picked up my purse from the floor, slid my coat over one arm, and walked toward the door. Rachel, please, Dad called after me. But I didn't turn around, didn't slow down, didn't look back. They had my money, my time, my loyalty, but they were never going to get my peace again. I walked straight to my car, started the engine, and pulled out of that lodge parking lot without looking back once. The drive home was dead quiet. No music, no radio, just the sound of the road and my own breath finally coming slow and steady. I kept waiting for the guilt to hit, that sinking, heavy feeling I always got after a fight with Mom. But it didn't come, not even a flicker. What came instead were the voicemails. The first one hit my phone before I even got off the highway. Dad, voice low and pleading. Rach, please call me back. This isn't how it should have ended. We love you. Just talk to me. Then Monica, talking fast like she could outrun the damage. I think everyone overreacted, okay? Can we just press reset? You know how Mom gets after a few drinks. Don't let this blow up everything. Jake's came in late, mumbled and rambling. You know she didn't mean it like that, right? It was just heat of the moment stuff. We were all surprised. Can you just not go nuclear on us? And then Mom, not until the next morning. Rachel, I've been thinking. Look, we have debts. Things are tight. We need your help. I know you're upset, but this isn't the time to cut everyone off. That was it. Right there. The part that told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't sorry for what she said. She was sorry for what it cost her. I didn't call back. I didn't text. I didn't even listen to the rest of the messages. Instead, I opened my laptop and booked a solo trip to Arizona. One of those all-inclusive spa resorts with hiking trails and zero cell service unless you wanted it. I picked the nicest room, scheduled a hot stone massage, prepaid for everything. No sharing beds with crying kids, no splitting bills, no explaining myself, just me. It was my first real vacation in years, and I didn't tell anyone where I went. I hiked through red rocks, breathed in dry desert air, sat in silence, and slept like I hadn't slept since college. No alarms, no panicked texts, no emergency wires to cover someone else's crisis. By the third day, I realized something strange. I wasn't waiting for the next call. I wasn't wondering how everyone was doing. I wasn't carrying the weight of someone else's problem like a purse I forgot to put down. I was just being. When I flew back home a week later, my apartment felt different, lighter. I didn't trip over guilt the second I walked in. I went to work Monday morning with a full night's sleep and no dark circles. My boss asked if I'd gone on a date or something. I just smiled. I laughed more that week. Didn't jump when my phone buzzed. Didn't feel like I had to be available around the clock just to prove I was a good daughter or sister. And I didn't send a dime. 3 months passed. No apology from Mom, not even a fake one. She sent a birthday card, no return address, no message beyond love, Mom. No mention of the lodge, no mention of what she'd said. Just a signature, like nothing had ever happened. It didn't sting the way I thought it would. Honestly, it told me exactly where I stood. I didn't reach out, didn't send flowers for Mother's Day, didn't Venmo anyone for just a little help. I waited, not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted proof that they saw me as more than a bank account with a heart. And silence, turns out it's louder than begging. The calls didn't stop. They just got more desperate. Jake first. I got laid off, he said, like it was some tragic fluke, and not the 5th time this year. Unemployment's taking forever. Can you float me, just for a bit? Then Monica. My card got maxed out. Ryan doesn't know yet. I just need a buffer until next month. Then Mom. The mortgage is behind. Just 2 payments. I'll pay you back. I didn't respond to any of them. Not out of spite, out of clarity. I was done funding chaos. Let them juggle overdue bills. Let them feel what it's like when the safety net disappears. I'd built that net thread by thread. And now I'd cut it loose. A week later, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I let it ring, but this time, the voicemail made me pause. Hey, it's Ryan, Monica's husband. I hope this isn't weird. I just wanted to say, I didn't realize how much you were caring for them. Thank you, and good for you, for stepping away. That one hit different. Someone finally saw it. I sat on the edge of my bed for a while after that, staring at the wall. No tears, no anger, just a steady hum in my chest, like something had finally clicked into place. The next day, I walked into work and asked for a meeting with my manager. I laid out my numbers, pitched my ideas, and asked for the lead role on our upcoming client shift. 2 weeks later, I was promoted to team lead. Extra pay, more authority, zero hesitation. Around that same time, I started seeing someone new, Kevin. Met him at the gym, of all places. Kind eyes, clean boundaries. On our second date, I told him I didn't do emotional babysitting anymore. He nodded and said, "Good. I don't need a fixer. I just want someone real." We moved slow, steady, intentional. I started therapy too. First session, the counselor asked me when I became the responsible one in my family. I told her, when I was 15 and my dad's business tanked. She smiled gently. That's a heavy age to become the adult in the house. And just like that, years of pressure started unraveling. I'd been the emotional adult in a broken system since high school. Always bailing, always smoothing, always holding everything together with a smile and a checkbook. I thought that made me strong. But really, it made me tired. Letting go didn't make me selfish. It made me free. 6 months after the lodge blow-up, my phone rang again. This time it was Dad. "Your mom's in the hospital," he said. "Minor stroke. She's stable, but she asked for you." I sat with that for a second. Then I grabbed my keys and drove. Not because I felt guilty, Not because I owed her anything, but because I chose to. The hospital smelled like bleach and beeping monitors. She looked smaller in that bed, pale, quiet. None of the sharpness I was used to. Her eyes opened when I stepped in. She tried to sit up but winced. "Didn't think you'd come," she said, voice thin. I did. Silence. Then she blinked hard and looked away. I was cruel. I didn't answer. "I said things I can't take back," she went on, "and I meant them at the time, but I was wrong." Still, I stayed quiet. She turned her head back toward me. "You were right to walk away." That caught me. I watched her closely. She swallowed hard. "I treated your love like a receipt, like something I could just cash in." My throat tightened, but I held it. "That wasn't fair," she whispered. "I'm sorry," I nodded once. "Thank you." It wasn't dramatic. No swelling music. No big family reunion moment. Just a quiet, tired woman admitting the truth. And that was enough. I didn't stay long, just sat beside her for a bit, held her hand while she drifted off again. No more promises, no more offers, just presence, without price. When I left the hospital that night, I didn't feel hollow. I didn't feel weighed down. I felt like someone who'd finally taken her life back. And it fit. A year after the lodge, we had another gathering. Nothing fancy this time, just folding chairs in Monica's backyard. Paper plates, mismatched Tupperware, potluck style. Everyone brought something. No one made a big deal out of it. I came late, brought dessert from a bakery near my place, stayed for an hour, maybe a little less. No one asked why I didn't stay longer. No one asked what I paid for. For once, no one expected more than I offered. And that's exactly how I knew things had changed. Mom hugged me at the door, light, brief. "You look good," she said. "How's work?" It caught me off guard. Not, "Can you talk to Monica about her bills?" Not, "Can you help Jake with his job search?" Just a simple, "How are you?" We still talk now. Not often, but enough. And only on my terms. When she calls, it's not to unload. It's to check in. If she veers too far into old patterns, I cut it short. No guilt, no apologies. I mentor younger women now, mostly through a local nonprofit. College grads, new professionals, women trying to get ahead without getting used up. I teach them how to budget, how to set boundaries, how to love their people without becoming a wallet in a wig. I tell them the truth, that you can give everything to your family and still have them treat it like a bill, not a gift. Kevin came with me to that backyard potluck. He helped me carry the dessert tray in, stayed by my side the whole hour, and kissed my forehead when we left. "You don't carry the weight of your family anymore," he said in the car. "You walk lighter." And he was right. I'm not bitter, I'm free. Because the night I walked out of that lodge wasn't the end of my relationship with my family. It was the beginning of a real one. One where I don't buy a seat at the table with guilt and cash. I'm still part of the family, just not the part that pays for everything. And that, finally, is enough.